Hi everyone, welcome to the latest edition of Pro Wrestling Defined, and joining me on the show tonight from Cheap Heat Productions, a podcast that you can find on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. He's had some great guests on there, Shane Bigelow, Trademark, even Bird from Judge Judy. He's had some really great outside the box guests, and it's great to have him on to discuss our favourite and most memorable feuds of all time. Maurice Shortall, how are you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. It's good to be on your side this time.
Yeah, definitely. No, the chat on yours was great. So yeah, it's awesome to have you on the show, man. And so start off by telling people a bit about Cheap Heat Productions, how you started off the podcast.
Well, I started promotion 2018 for wrestling events up in Dublin when I was living there. So from that, then we started to get into rock club nights because I'm into rock music as well. And we ended up doing shows in Portlaoise then and a few in Kilkenny and different places around Ireland. So it's been going well. But obviously since the pandemic then, that put a stop to everything. So I decided, like everyone else, because nearly everyone's got a podcast now, I may as well just get one out there, you know. So it's a way of me keeping active and kind of keeping the name out there for when we can eventually go back to clubs and do stuff that I'm kind of not been sitting in the dark really when it comes to maybe promoters looking at my stuff and they see, okay, he's still active. So I think it'll stand to me in the future for doing nights and things like that. And that's why I started.
Definitely, man. And like you've had some great guests and everything. So like, yeah, the podcast is doing really well and I enjoy your stuff. So definitely everybody check that out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else. But so we'll get into it. Our most memorable feuds of all time. Who are you starting off with as your number one?
Well, the first one I had down was The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Just because my favorite era is the Attitude Era. I think yours is a little bit before that, yeah?
I'm undecided. It isn't Attitude Era. Maybe kind of the latter part of that. But I'm kind of torn between like early to mid 90s and like the Ruthless Aggression Era. I'm kind of between those two a little bit. And yeah, carry on.
Yeah. We'll get into that in a different episode.
We will, yeah. I'll only blame.
So, yeah, The Rock and Austin, anyway, and it culminated in their 3 WrestleMania matches, and the lead up to 19 was really good soundtrack, really good WrestleMania. And one thing I remember about that Mania was like the promo with the Limp Bizkit song Crack Addicts, my favorite band as well, performed twice that night, so it was perfect. And obviously my favorite WrestleMania for like all those reasons. But in the lead up to that match, The Rock said that nobody remembers Act 1 and Act 2. He said everyone remembers Act 3. And that's kind of stood the test of time because we didn't know at the time that it was going to be Austin's last match. Mm-hmm. So with all that into consideration, like I think that their feud, which ended with Steve Austin basically retiring after that, few appearances here and there, I think it was really one of the best rivalries I've seen.
Definitely can't argue with any of that. And it was one of the highest drawing rivalries of all time, and their match quality was awesome as well. And so I definitely back you up on that. That was absolutely amazing. But I'd say for my first one, I'm going to go with Undertaker Shawn. Okay. Like the history there is incredible, even going back to 1997, the first Hell in a Cell, it's my second favorite Hell in a Cell match. My first one is Brock and Undertaker from 2002. That's such an underrated gem, I think.
No Mercy.
Yeah, No Mercy 02. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, it's cringy to look back on now because it's an absolute bloodbath. Man, the drama of that. It was such a changing of the guard, but I'll get to that later because that ties in with one of my other ones. But Shawn and Taker, the 2 WrestleManias, WrestleMania 25 and 26, like the match quality is just unbelievable. But the story, like leading into WrestleMania 25, the heaven and hell dynamic, tying Shawn's real life Christianity and Undertaker's dark character into it, like, was just so well pulled off in the lead up, and even the entrances in the match, like, was just perfect. And that's my favorite actual match of all time as well, the one from 25. It was just an absolute masterpiece. But I think the lead up to WrestleMania 26 of their match is my favorite of all time, because just the way they did it, like the way they played it off the end of the Shawn Undertaker match at 25, the way Shawn wrestled nearly a perfect match, but he made that one mistake at the end by going for the moonsault, and Taker caught him into the tombstone and won it. And like that ate Shawn up, and he kind of unravels then for the year after that. And they just played it so well. And then remember the promo with the running up that hill, the placebo song, running up that hill. Oh my God. Like that's up there with the Rock Austin My Way one for me. I think that is so good. And like it was almost a full year of build. Like, it was just unbelievable. And I don't think I've ever been quite as hyped up for a match as Shawn and Taker 26. I prefer the WrestleMania 25 match. I think it's just that little bit better. 26 is amazing as well with the drama of Shawn retiring. But yeah, WrestleMania 26, that's the lead up to that is definitely the probably my favorite of all time. What's your next pick?
Just on that, like Shawn Michaels was always great at playing that character. Like Shawn has lost his smile, and he was like so believable every time. Like when Shawn Michaels was down and out, like when they were trashing him over his drug use and things like that. Like he could really sell. Like, and I suppose like when you look at him, the way he portrayed that Hell in a Cell match as well as a special guest referee that time, the emotion, like that's what that was all about, emotion. But on the side note, like the first ever pay-per-view, like I was 10 and I snuck up to watch this pay-per-view live when I was 10. It was the Royal Rumble 1998. And Shawn was fighting Undertaker that night as well in the casket match, where like after the match then Kane burnt the Undertaker alive in the casket. So
yeah,
I'm always a sucker for the gimmicks as well, big time.
Oh, but I absolutely love that as well. Especially when you're looking back at stuff when you were really young and it was still real and everything. Like Undertaker Yokozuna is one of those for me. Like, it's a sentimental favorite that way as well. But I'd say sorry, your next pick was?
Yeah, just on one more note on that about those gimmicky matches and stuff. I've got my 1-year-old hooked on the Kane and Shane ambulance match from Survivor Series 2003 at the moment. He watches it every day. And he's so into it. But any other wrestling match I put on, no, doesn't want to know about it.
Really?
Yeah, it's just that one match.
That's crazy. It's a good thing he doesn't get to the Vince Undertaker buried alive. That's gruesome, man. Jeez. That's gas though.
Yeah.
Kids, you can't predict them.
No. I think the future's bright for him anyway. My second one was not necessarily like a wrestling one. Well, not as in ring wrestling, but it was McMahon and Austin, just for what it was and the time it was at and what it brought together. And the Attitude Era like wouldn't have been what it was. I know it had DX as well and it had various other characters, but if it wasn't for Steve Austin, I don't think going through that stuff with Vince McMahon and everything, I think that really helped carry the whole era through as well. As like he was such a big star, like he was the guy all the time. It was like you'll never see arena pops like Steve Austin.
No,
because I think it was at an era where like bad behavior was almost encouraged back then.
Yeah,
there was girls flashing in the crowd, there was guys down in beers, like. You have on ECW, the Sandman was coming out, smashing beers off his head. Like, it was just really amped up. Like, Shane Bigelow that we both had on our podcast, like, he talked about going to an ECW show and just having that raw energy and that smell of beer, like, when you go in. Like, just a different time, It
really was. And, it was the era of the anti-hero. And, like, that storyline just kind of encapsulated all of that. So it was the perfect storm for Austin. And then he had The Rock then coming on the heels of that as well. Like, so it was just a perfect storm. Like, everything kind of came together at the same time. Like, so it was unbelievable. But I'd say for my next one, I'm going to go with Brock and Undertaker. Kind of ties, like, the whole history of it, not just, revolving around the streak or anything, but like going back to 2002, like that Hell in a Cell, and like even the Unforgiven match before that was fantastic. But like there was it's so crazy to think that even at that time, like everybody was wondering, like, oh, is this it for Undertaker in 2002? You know, is this it? Like, you know, because I remember after the Hell in a Cell match at No Mercy 02, he came out and, you know, he said he'd nearly give me a heart attack at the time, like, because Undertaker was my favorite. He comes out and he says, you know, like, this isn't going to be easy, but after 10 years or whatever, like, my body's been through a lot or something. And then Big Show comes out and interrupts him and throws him off the stage. But, you know, it sounded like he was going to retire. I swear, yeah. I'll never forget it. I remember SmackDown over here was on Saturday mornings back then. And, like, I remember watching with my friend, like, when Undertaker said that, I was just like, oh, no, you know, no, please, no. But, like, that match is so dramatic. Like, there's almost that changing of the guard dynamic there, like, you know, where, like, it's an absolute war, but Brock, you know, Taker has him for the tombstone at the end. And that was kind of I think that was only the first or second time where they did that thing where, you know, Brock reversed it into the tombstone himself, but then flipped him into the F5 and won it, like, and it was just a changing of the guard. And then all of those years later, like, Brock goes on to UFC and does his thing and everything, and Undertaker, you know, cements his legacy even, you know, 10 times more in that space of time, like, and then Brock comes back, and then Brock ends the streak, and, like, I mean, what can you say about that moment? I mean, I think that's the only moment that's come close to not topping, but almost equaling the kind of iconicness of Andre and Hogan. I think that's the only thing that comes close. Well, maybe Hogan and Rock is up there as well, and Hogan and Warrior. But anything without Hogan, we'll put it that way, because everything he did seemed to freaking be iconic. Like, but I think, yeah, that moment. I mean, like, just the breath going out of the crowd and that guy with the big eyes in the front row and just the reaction. I mean, yeah, it really was like, and I remember even for myself at home, I couldn't speak. You know, I literally could not get a word. And I was there with a friend of mine. Another friend rang me, and I was on the phone. And I couldn't get my words out. It was just the weirdest thing. It's never happened to me before in my life. It was the weirdest thing, and it's funny to be able to shut me up when it comes to wrestling. Like, you know, as people will notice, like, I'll blab. But yeah. So, and then, like, you know, Undertaker comes back and their SummerSlam match at, I think, was it 2015, 2016. I think it's 2015. That's absolutely awesome. So just that whole span of time. I love rivalries that, you know, really span time and kind of, you know, interlock with other things going on. And so, yeah, Undertaker and Brock is my next one.
Do you know what was really cool as well? That time where Undertaker showed up at the UFC and stared him down.
Oh, that was so good. I mean, that stirred the shit at the time. Like, that was everywhere. That was class.
And, like, he didn't come back for, like, a year or two at least after that, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was about another 2 years or so, yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, like, if they capitalized off it at that time, like, that would have been super hot, like.
Yeah. Right, the next one I'm going to go for is Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
Oh.
Yeah, so basically the way they started out in DX, and then, like, Shawn was going into WrestleMania 14 before his back injury with Austin. He had a great match with Austin at 14 where Tyson was involved, but he was carrying a really bad injury all throughout that. So after he lost that match, like, he was gone for years and years, and Triple H took the guard, obviously married Stephanie, turned into one of the biggest wrestlers in the company. And then in 2002, Shawn comes back and they do the whole DX thing, and then Triple H turns on him. And they had a great street fight, unsanctioned match at SummerSlam 2002. And I remember watching that, like, and I was still a good bit younger at the time, so I was devastated after that match when Triple H, like, put that hammer into his back, man.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I was like, oh no, he's gone, he's finished, he can't come back. Like, it was still almost believable to me at that time, you know?
Yeah.
I just thought, oh no, there's no way he's coming back. And then for him to go back into the chamber and win the title, it was beautiful. It was brilliant, you know? And then fast forward again, the DX stuff, which with kind of, when they got back together, it was underrated when they were doing Shane and Vince and the Spirit Squad and the taking the piss and all that stuff was really, really good as well. and the Shane and Vince impressions alone, like, were worth that.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. What was the line that he used to always do when he was impersonating Shane? Oh God.
I remember he said that I, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, love dicks. He was talking about Dick Cheney and Dick Clark and various other dicks.
Oh man, that was brilliant. That was. Did you see all those memes that went up recently, kind of about that with when the whole Peacock deal came through? It's like, you know, it's the picture from Vince back then when they had the squiggly writing, you know, of like Vince loves cocks, and it's Vince loves Peacock or whatever. They were right good. But yeah, like Shawn and Triple H is up there for me as well, because like just like everything you were saying, stages with the two of them, because like at SummerSlam 2002, I was just ecstatic to see Shawn back because I loved Shawn. And I was the same as you at the end of the match. I was like wishing death on Triple H, like for using the hammer. But fast forward into 2000 into 2003, start of 2004, like Triple H was one of my main guys because like I was really studying the business at that point, and I just loved his work. I still to this day think his actual in-ring work is underrated. But their match, The Last Man Standing, Royal Rumble 2004, God, that's so good. Like, it's really brutal as well, but just the story they tell in it is just amazing. But yeah, and then later on, like, it ties into the
Undertaker stuff.
The Undertaker. Yeah, so we had a little bit of a tech issue there, so we're back, and so I think we were on my last pick. So I've been kind of racking my brain with this one because I was stuck between two, but I'd say since my two other ones were based around Undertaker, like I had Undertaker Brock and Shawn and Undertaker, I'll go for a non-Undertaker one for this because he was in the other one I was considering as well. But the other one is Sting and Hogan from WCW in 96, 97. I mean, talk about one that spanned time, and like, I know the finish left it down a little bit in the end at Starrcade 97, but like the people still erupt at the end, like, so it almost didn't matter. But the build up to that, like I wasn't watching WCW at the time.
I actually was.
Oh, really?
I was in the opposite. I only started watching WWF as it was in late 97, and that's why the first pay-per-view I seen was Rumble 98. Like, so I was watching WCW because remember over here we used to have Cartoon Network, and then at 9:00 on a Friday night that switcheroo came around and Nitro came on, and that's how I started into wrestling.
God, that's mad. God, that must have been such a cool time to be watching, because I didn't start watching WCW till mid 99. Like the first night I watched it, I think Kevin Nash was against Sid, I think, and then Sting was kind of with Nash at the time, and then the fake Sting came out and everything. But I loved, even though WCW was starting to kind of go down a bit, like I was only 10, so like I thought it was amazing at the time. But
was that when Thunder was on the go as well?
Yeah, Thunder was there at the time as well. Like, we had that over here. But Sting and Hogan, like, so I didn't see that stuff till a couple of years later, maybe early 2000s. I got one of those WCW best of VHSs, and it was the best of Sting or Sting Back in Black, something like that. Anyway, and they showed there was a highlight package on that whole feud, the build from Sting turning from the Surfer Sting into the Crow Sting, and that whole transition, and the NWO, and like the way it was built was so good. The way like everybody was starting to doubt Sting because of the fake Sting, and that's what kind of caused him to go into kind of to kind of brood away and turn into this mysterious kind of broken character, like, and then he's coming then to avenge WCW and take down the NWO, like, he had this great Avenger kind of vigilante dynamic at the time, like, and so the lead up to that, I think I'll never forget on that video, the VHS, they showed the intro package, the intro promo that they did for Starrcade 97 of Sting. Do you remember that, where he's like in the warehouse, like this broken down warehouse, and like it's raining, and it's very reminiscent of the Crow. Like,
oh, I think I do remember that. Yeah.
Oh, I still think it's the best intro ever. I mean,
Yeah.
there's great captions in it. It's like he's witnessed the ruin of an empire. Now he seeks out the ruin of one man, and it shows Hogan, and it's just amazing stuff. Like,
at the time watching that, I was only like 9, going on 10. So we didn't actually have the pay-per-views over here at this time, but you'd always see kind of the fallout from them.
Yeah.
And like, it's definitely something I need to revisit and watch some of those pay-per-view matches, because at the time I didn't see them, and you're just kind of having the weekly show,
Yeah. Yeah, that was really annoying, because I remember when I got into it in '99, and I was big, even though WCW in 2000 is often kind of crapped upon. I loved it at the time. Like, when Steiner was champion and Nash was good, and Chronic then as well. Shout out to Brian Adams.
Yeah.
Or to Brian Clark, sorry.
Brian Adams.
Yeah, no. But there was definitely some good within that period of time. Like, but Sting and Hogan anyway. Like, God, that storyline. Like, it was just. It's hard to top, It's just a pity the match didn't work out that bit better. But like, that storyline was just so perfectly done. It was Sting at his very peak, and the way he didn't speak, for that whole year and a half. He did the whole thing without speaking, and then rappelling from the rafters. There's so much great stuff. But yeah, definitely go back and watch that intro. I'm pretty sure it's actually on YouTube. Even if you just type in Starrcade 97 promo, it's just awesome stuff. Like, so yeah. So for me, my top ones anyway: Taker, Shawn, Taker, Brock, and Sting, Hogan. Kane and Taker was the other one I was thinking. Rock and Cena. Yeah. That year-long build-up was up there as well. Like, but yeah, if I had to narrow it down to 3, I'll throw those in there.
I think it's nice for WCW to get a mention in there as well, though. Because it's what I started off watching, but I think the edginess of WWE at the time, and me becoming a teenager, kind of, that solidified what route I was going to go down, so to speak,
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just being young at that time, like, and seeing all that unfold. Like, there was moments during those times where, like, you'd be cringing to have your parents watching it with you, and they'd be wondering, like, what is going on?
Oh yeah. There was a lot of those.
Like, I remember seeing the Katie Vick thing, like, with my grandparents.
Ooh.
Now, it wasn't. I don't think it was the full thing. Like, they were kind of freezing some of it, but they were wondering, like, what is going on?
Gosh, who the hell came up with that idea? Like,
yeah. But if AEW can be half as entertaining as WCW in the future, they'll be doing very well, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. Like, because WCW 96 to 98, even kind of early 99, mid 99, WCW was on fire, and like the whole show was really. Like, even their undercard was really good, like the cruiserweight division and everything. Like, so they were kind of firing. Yeah, he was super cool.
Juventud Guerrero.
Yeah.
Like, there were serious wrestlers there.
Oh,
yeah, Rey Mysterio. Mysterio won that world title pretty young as well there.
Yeah, and Dean Malenko, he was the other one I was going to mention. He was class in WCW as well. A lot of guys like Jericho, Benoit, lots of them, got their kind of first big break there, like, so it was hot stuff at the time, like, but I think that Hogan Sting, that year and a half, I think that's WCW's pinnacle. I think, nothing tops it. I think Luger was at his peak at that time as well. If you look at it when he beats Hogan for the title, I mean, the place just erupts. He was so over during that time, like, so he's, he was unreal during that time. It was such a stacked roster, like, it's a hard time. It's a hard time to beat.
The only thing that came close to it was the resurrection and Carnage from Goldberg.
Sorry, what was that?
I said the only thing that kind of came close to it was the resurrection and the Carnage of Goldberg with his streak.
Oh, unbelievable. I can't believe I didn't mention Goldberg there, actually. Like, yeah, God. He was unbelievable. Like, I remember, I think it was the second week I watched, second week I got WCW, like, Goldberg was just coming back from injury. And he changed the music to the Crush 'em music. And like, they did this video package on him. He's one of the few wrestlers, like, I distinctly remember seeing for the very first time. Like, God, he was unbelievable at that time. Like, he was on such a roll, like, so their roster was absolutely amazing. It was an unreal time to be watching it. So hopefully AEW can kind of, like, there's good and there's bad there, but I think like, they need to get their stuff together a little bit. It's a bit of a jumbled mess at times, I find, like, so hopefully they can get it together and we can have a bit more competition in the shows, like, because, like, this Wednesday Night War thing, I mean, that's really a joke. Like, I mean, come on, it's WWE's developmental territory against their full strength thing, like,
Yeah, I think you see with Jericho now coming on Austin's podcast, and I don't really think it's even in Vince's mindset, but I think it could be in Triple H's though, because, like, the wrestling element of NXT and AEW is very similar. But, like, the product of Raw and SmackDown and AEW is completely different.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Definitely. But,
so it'll be interesting to see where these potential crossovers lead us.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of uncharted territory. I think it's kind of it kind of shows how unthreatened Vince is, in a way, that he would let something like that happen. Because, I mean, back in the day, he would have never let The Rock interview Sting or something like that. I know it's a different thing now, WWE Network, and it's media, and it's a different world, like, but at the same time, I don't think there would have been any crossover of any kind, back in the day. So I think it shows he doesn't really see them as a viable threat, like,
But it also goes to show, like, Jericho has always said since he left that he's got a great relationship with Vince McMahon. You can't really challenge that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, yeah. It pays to keep him in their good books, like, because Jericho will probably end up coming back at some stage, like, he's a WWE guy underneath it all, like, so hopefully, anyway, I'd love to see him back. I love Jericho, like, so I'd love to see him back at some point. But any feud you want to give an honorable mention to before we strike off?
Oh, that's a good question. I had obviously Undertaker and Kane down here as well. Let me think off the top of my head. I think CM Punk and Cena done some good things. Edge and Cena.
Oh yeah, 2006. That was hot stuff, man.
Who else? Man, I can't think of any off the top of my head. You put me on the spot.
I know. I actually hate being put on the spot as well. Apologies. I know. I could never think.
They stand out.
Yeah, no. Edge and Cena especially, Jesus, that I love that. I think that was Cena nearly at one of his absolute peaks. Cena Orton as well had a really great feud.
Yeah.
They did a lot of good stuff. And one that sprung to mind for me as well, kind of from childhood as well, is Rock and Triple H. Their stuff was, and, like, there was a fair bit of real life, kind of a bit of heat there as well, out of competition and stuff. But God, I was so into that feud back then. I hated Triple H back then and loved Rock. And it's kind of the other way around for me nowadays. But that was awesome. And, like, the last one, from a real sentimental point of view, is Undertaker Yokozuna. Oh, I just absolutely loved that feud as a kid. Like, it's one of my first memories, Undertaker sitting up from the bonsai, and the casket match at Survivor Series 94 with Chuck Norris as the enforcer. And all that. That's
Give me a casket match every day of the week, man.
Yes, yeah. Oh, classic. Even Undertaker in a casket, like, I'll watch that, like,
Yeah.
But, great stuff, like, Jesus. But Jesus, it's been great to get you back on anyway, man. And it's been great chatting. I love reminiscing on the feuds with you, and we'll chat again at some point.
We will. We'll get into WrestleMania 19 soon, top to bottom.
Definitely. But a favorite for both of us, like, so yeah, we'll definitely get into that. So cheers for coming on, man.
No bother, man. Thanks a million.
Thank you for tuning into Pro Wrestling Defined on YouTube. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel to keep up with all future content. And please follow Pro Wrestling Defined on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.